Las Vegas goes quiet, Philadelphia stalls, so why are US airports emptying out? And what does it mean for your next move? Fewer flights can mean calmer streets and cheaper homes. Here are 12 empty state airports reshaping where buyers land. Number 12, Las Vegas, Nevada. The neon still glows on the strip, but the airport that feeds it isn't buzzing like it did. After a record run of about 58.4 million passengers in 2024, 2025 eased back. Late spring sat just under 5 million travelers a month. June and July hovered in the mid 4 millions, and August slipped to roughly 4.5 million, leaving the year a few percent behind pace. For buyers, the housing math is shifting but still workable. Citywide, the median sale price in September landed near $448,000, while single-family homes across southern Nevada were around $470,000 after peaking at $480,000 in August. Condos and townhomes are sitting close to $298,000, with days on market stretching more than they did a year ago. That softer, steadier rhythm tends to make high-rises and older single-family homes more negotiable, especially just beyond the resort corridor. Number 11, Chicago, Illinois. O'Hare still moves people, just differently than it used to. Summer 2025 was the airport's busiest ever, with about 24.3 million passengers in June-August and a record 8.04 million in June alone. Most of that strength is domestic, while some long-haul schedules keep shuffling, so the Europe or Asia nonstop you counted on might be seasonal or routed through another hub. Plan for backups and you'll be fine. On the ground, Chicago remains big city livable without coastal prices. The citywide median sale price sits around $370,000, with typical values near $312,000 and days on market in the 50s. Quicker in hot pockets, slower where inventory has crept up. Core neighborhoods with strong schools and steady owner occupancy hold up, while areas tied to convention spillover feel more negotiable. If you want space, the outer neighbor still counts. If you want central convenience, budget for competition, but not a frenzy. Travel is the tiebreaker. If your life depends on a specific non-stop that's been trimmed, live near rail and keep Midway or even Milwaukee in your back pocket. Number 10, Orlando, Florida. Orlando's airport used to feel like walking into a theme park. The smiles haven't vanished, but the pace has leveled out. MCO still led Florida in 2024 with about 57.2 million passengers, yet hotels finished the year at roughly 71.6% occupancy. Solid, but softer as new rooms came online, and some families paused for big trips. Visa appointments in many countries still stretch for months, which nudges international planners toward easier destinations and leaves a few long-haul schedules thinner than they were. For buyers, the local math is friendly. September's median home price across Greater Orlando was about $378,000. Days on market averaged around 72, and time from list to close ran near 106 days, longer than the frenzy years, which gives you room to negotiate. That calmer travel cycle shows up in daily life too. Commutes breathe, weekends feel less slammed, and starter homes aren't battling as many second home bids. The trade-off is simple travel planning. Count the non-stops you actually use, price holiday fares a few months ahead, and listen for flight paths before you fall in love with a patio. If your household depends on peak season shifts, budget for slower stretches. If you want sun, schools, and suburban pace at a price that still works, Orlando still works. Just plan flights with the same care you plan your mortgage. Number 9, Detroit, Michigan. DTW feels slower than it used to. In May 2025, the airport moved about 3.0 million passengers, with roughly 322,000 of them flying international. On the ground, the housing math is still Detroit's calling card. Inside the city limits, the median sale price sits around $97,000, and homes go pending in about 6 weeks. Room to negotiate, room to tinker. And yes, porches and basements are still part of the deal. Metro-wide is a different story. Across Wayne, Oakland, Macomb, and Livingston counties, the median recently hovered near the low to mid $300,000, reflecting the suburb's stronger prices. If you want space and a yard without coastal sticker shock, that split lets you pick your lane: ultra affordable city rehab or move-in ready suburban. Day to day, a quieter hub actually helps. Fewer conference weeks mean looser freeways, easier hotel rates for visiting family, and less churn around the terminal. The trade-off shows up in service jobs and small businesses that counted on steady arrivals. Shifts can feel lighter when flights consolidate. If your work or family keeps you on long-haul routes, plan on connecting more often and build that time into your travel routine. Number 7, New Orleans, Louisiana. The music is still there, but the crowds are smaller. Tourism nearly reached pre-pandemic levels in 2024, yet early 2025 at MSY has leaned more domestic and some long-haul flights have thinned. You feel it in quieter concourses and quicker security on weekdays. For locals, fewer full hotels outside big events can mean lighter tips and shorter shifts. For buyers, prices are reasonable for a major culture city. Metro homes average in the mid $300,000. Orleans Parish sits near the low $300,000, and the wider region's median is in the mid $200,000. You can still find classic shotguns and cottages at workable numbers if you look beyond the postcard blocks. The big budget item is insurance. Premiums are high, flood may be required, and storm prep is part of ownership. Daily life runs smoother with fewer visitors, easier errands, shorter lines, and neighborhood spots that feel local. The trade-off is travel. A Europe trip may need an extra connection. If you want oak shade, second lines, and a true neighborhood feel, New Orleans still works. Just plan for insurance costs and build a simple storm and flight plan. Number 6, Denver, Colorado. Denver still runs hard. It's just a touch less effortless for frequent flyers. The airport hit about 82.3 million passengers in 2024 and ranked among the world's busiest, with a regional economic punch north of $47 billion. Lately though, some routes swing with the seasons and a few spokes have been trimmed, so the once easy non-stop may now be a connect through Phoenix or Dallas Day. Translation for locals: pad tight connections and keep a backup routing in your pocket. Housing finally gives buyers room to breathe. The median closed price sits around $586,000. Time on market has stretched into the mid to high 30s, and active listings recently peaked near 18,000. More choice than we've seen in years. If you want space without coastal pricing, outer neighborhoods and nearby suburbs still pencil. Just weigh school and trail access against how often you'll actually be at the airport. Daily life is smoother. Fewer convention surges and less peak season churn mean easier rideshare pickups and calmer weekends at your favorite spots. The trade-off is simple. If you fly internationally a lot, expect an extra connection now and then. Everyone else keeps the mountain lifestyle, plans flights the way they plan powder days, and benefits from a market where breathing room is finally back. Number 5, Honolulu, Hawaii. For years, Honolulu was the first page of the postcard. In 2025, it's quieter. Summer arrivals slipped to about 873,000 in July and roughly 807,000 in August, both below last year even as daily spending rose. You see it at the airport. Japan flights run less often, duty-free moves slower, and slow weeks are more common. The Japanese market, once the heartbeat of international visits, is still well under 2019. On Oahu, that shift cuts both ways. Fewer planes can mean lighter shifts and thinner tips, but traffic eases, reservations open up, and some beaches feel local again. Housing doesn't budge though. September's median single-family price sits near $1,155,000. Condos around $509,000. Year-to-date single-family holds near $1,145,000. And condos around $505,000. If you're moving from the mainland, keep the math simple. Frequent Asia trips will likely need an extra connection and a bigger budget. If you're coming for community, culture, and that island calm, a quieter HNL is just weather. Day to day, you trade a little airport buzz for easier weekends and an outdoors first lifestyle. Just remember, the mortgage comes first and the flight plan second. Number 4, San Francisco, California. SFO still looks sleek, but the vibe has shifted. The airport moved about 5.1 million passengers in August 2025. Busy, yet not the all-out crush it once was, and its last fiscal year tallied roughly 51.3 million travelers. Overseas demand into the US is hovering in the mid-80s% of 2019 levels, which helps explain why some long-haul schedules feel thinner, and a few check-in banks sit quiet between peaks. Airlines follow demand. When visitors pivot to other gateways, routes adjust. For locals, the everyday impact is subtle. Rideshares come quicker, Weekend 101 traffic breathes, and last-minute rooms for visiting family aren't always sticker shock. House hunting is a different story. the city still commands real money. September 2025's median sale price sits around $1.4 million, with homes going pending in about 3 weeks. Zillow's broader index pegs typical values near $1.25 million. In plain English, an emptier SFO doesn't unlock no valley on a starter budget. What it does is shift where value lives. More buyers drift south or east for good schools and a sane peninsula commute, or cross the bay for space and a mortgage that won't drown the rest of their life. If your calendar depends on frequent trans-Pacific trips, expect extra connections and plan accordingly. If your life is mostly local, the quieter airport fades into the background while the real calculus stays the same: neighborhood, commute, and whether the monthly payment still lets you enjoy the city you worked so hard to reach. Number 3, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. For a gateway to the Liberty Bell, PHL hasn't felt very welcoming lately. Summer headlines called out bumpy operations, with one report noting a sharp jump in cancellations and on-time performance slipping by a couple of points. Airport stats back up the turbulence. By July 2025, domestic passenger counts were running 6 to 9% below last year on a year-to-date basis, even as commuter traffic ticked up. And through spring, entries by non-US visitors were down about 10.5% versus 2024, a small but telling sign that some international travelers are choosing New York or DC instead. What does that mean if you're moving here? Daily life gets a little easier outside the tourist zones, weekends feel more local, and reservations aren't a fight. The trade-off is travel planning. That nonstop you love might be thinner or seasonal, so it pays to live near reliable rail and treat Newark, JFK, or BWI as easy backups. PHL Airport. The housing math is the bright spot. Philadelphia still prices like a big city you can actually buy into. Recent sales sit around a $257,000 median, with homes taking about 51 days to go under contract, more breathing room than the frenzy years. Typical values cluster in the low to mid $200,000 depending on the source and neighborhood, so patient buyers can land row house charm and tree-lined blocks without coastal sticker shock. Number 2, Portland, Oregon. PDX used to feel like a love letter to travel. The carpet selfies, local coffee, and a glide from curb to gate. That charm's still there, just quieter. International demand has softened and some long-haul plans fizzled. Delta shelved the Portland-Tokyo idea, so a few Europe-Asia options run thinner than they did. The upside is daily ease. Weekday mornings move, real-time waitboards help, and the main terminal overhaul is phasing in toward a fuller finish in winter 2025 to 26, even if construction occasionally squeezes traffic at night. Net effect, the airport feels like it belongs to locals again. For movers, the housing math is practical. The Portland Metro's median sits around the mid $500,000, inventory has climbed to roughly 3.8 months, and total market time hovers near 2 months, enough breathing room to negotiate, especially on homes that need a cosmetic refresh. Year over year, prices are basically flat to slightly up, a steadier slope than the boom years. If your work leans on frequent non-stops to Europe or Asia, plan for more connections and book earlier. If your dream is a craftsman with a yard, walkable blocks, and trailheads 20 minutes away, a calmer PDX isn't a crisis, it's breathing room. Finally, at number 1 Pacific Northwest secondaries. Airports don't stand alone. When Seattle-Tacoma gets busier or slows down, the smaller airports around it feel it. SeaTac has about 52.6 million passengers in 2024 and is expected to grow in 2025, keeping the region connected while the smaller fields adjust. Everett's Payne Field has trimmed service, Alaska dropped its anchorage non-stop and scaled back other flights. Bellingham keeps shifting too, with Allegiant reshaping routes and LAX off the board going into the new year. The result is simple. Trips that used to be easy non-stops can turn into 2-hop journeys, especially for leisure travelers chasing deals or niche destinations. Families adjust in ways a route map won't show. When airfare stops adding up, long weekends turn into road trips. That's why places near good options, an I-5 on-ramp, or a dependable Amtrak Cascade stop quietly become more attractive. Washington is aiming to increase Cascade service to 14 daily Seattle-Portland round trips and 5 Seattle-Vancouver BC trips, so rail becomes a real backup when flights thin out. The day-to-day trade is simple: fewer fly-in party crowds, steadier foot traffic at local spots, and a calendar that leans more on farmers markets than big conventions. If you're buying near a quieter hub, treat travel like a utility, price it, plan it, and assume 2 connections a couple of times a year. The upside is a grounded routine, kids soccer on Saturday, easier weekends, and a mortgage tied to local demand rather than yesterday's flight schedule. Here's the bottom line: when planes go quiet, neighborhoods speak up. Start with your real calendar. How often do you actually fly? If it's a couple family trips and 1 vacation, losing a non-stop is just an extra connection and a good podcast. Focus on flexibility, not romance. Living near reliable rail or a fast highway puts multiple airports in play and often beats being 15 minutes from a terminal with limited service. Check the local economy too. If fewer visitors mean slower hotels and restaurants, prices might soften, but part-time jobs can thin out. Look for anchors that don't depend on tourists, hospitals, schools, logistics, public sector, so the area stays steady when travel dips. Then go feel the rhythm. Spend a Saturday on the block you're eyeing. Do you see families on bikes, lawnmowers humming, kids chalking sidewalks? That's staying power. If storefronts are shut by late afternoon, negotiate hard and keep cash aside for fixes. 12 airports, some quiet wins, some growing pains, some with terminals that whisper more than they roar. The real question isn't the runway, it's whether you'd live nearby. Drop your pick in the comments. And remember, smart moves come with stories money can't buy.